let's talk to decision makers about young people's mental health in Scotland. Hi, my name's Abbie and I'm a member of the Scottish Youth Parliament for Aberdeen Central, and I'm also a young person's representative on the Children and Young People's Mental Health and Wellbeing Joint Delivery Board, which is co-chaired by the Scottish Government and COSLA. First up, I'm on my way to meet Hugh, one of the chairs of the Joint Delivery Board, to have a conversation about children and young people's mental health and wellbeing in Scotland.
The important thing about a board like this is that it delivers meaningful change and makes things better for children and young people and their families all across Scotland. And I think the board has had a number of successes, and that's really what we were after. So there's the community mental health and wellbeing supports for children and young people across Scotland. Before this board, it had been developed, there had been a lot of work gone into it and the run up to it. But now it's out there, it's everywhere, and it's supporting tens of thousands of children and young people across Scotland.
What would your advice be for children and young people who need support with their mental health?
So I think the first thing is you are definitely not alone. Being able to talk about it, and a lot of people will talk to their friends, talk to their families, and that might be enough, but it might not. So I don't think people should be afraid to reach out to the sort of supports that are there, either in face-to-face in-person support like this or online support, things like I Feel, talking to trusted adults. What benefits have you had from being involved in the board? What do you take from it?
Yeah, so I've had quite a few different benefits from being on the board. So in terms of like my personal development, I'm studying mental health nursing at university, and it's been really interesting to hear about the policy side of mental health and wellbeing. I've definitely increased a lot in confidence since joining the board, and have been able to challenge adults and people in the room at maybe quite senior levels that I probably wouldn't have been able to do beforehand.
So what do you think the government can do to improve how we engage with young people on exercise like this and boards like this?
Yes, I think it's really important that children and young people are involved, because obviously it's their lives that are going to be impacted by the decisions that are being made. I also think that the Right Way resource that has been designed with Scottish Government is a really important piece of work that I'm hoping all branches of the Scottish Government can take on board and use to make sure that they're engaging with children and young people and representing their rights within Scottish Government as well. So I've just arrived at COSLA to speak to Nicola to continue the conversation around young people's mental health and wellbeing. So I'd be really interested to know about what you think the main successes of the board have been.
Well, I think first of all, one of the main successes of the board was having children and young people involved. But I'd also mention the mental health resources that have been developed. So we've put together a range of resources such as a digital map of available training and evaluation tools for mental health service providers. A One Good adult resource has also been developed for children and young people. The resource has been piloted in North Ayrshire and Aberdeen City, and we look forward to hearing how that goes, and I would encourage people to have a look.
What are your personal reflections on the work of the board?
So I've been really pleased to welcome the improvements in children and young people's mental health provision, both in school counselling and community-based support. Whilst we recognise what has been achieved, we also recognise that the considerable challenge ahead of us in continuing to support our children and young people's mental health and, importantly, wellbeing.
So what's going to happen next around children and young people's mental health in Scotland?
It's hoped that our report and recommendations will support the continued development of mental health services. The data I'm finding from all of the engagement exercises will certainly help us around about the next steps as Scottish Government and COSLA in supporting the mental health and wellbeing of children and young people. The results from the engagement exercises have been published, so what young people have said can be heard more widely as well. We know that there's still work to do and that we will have to work together to establish how best to take this forward. What are the most important things for us to remember when we're engaging with children and young people for the next phase of the board?
So I think it's really important to make sure that children and young people are engaged right from the start, but they're also given a bit of choice about what engagement they can do. So maybe have young people sitting on the board, but also offer maybe one-off opportunities like consultation workshops or surveys, so that lots of different children and young people are able to sort of feed in as much as they can. And then in terms of making it accessible to children and young people and making sure that the environment is seen as friendly, there's no jargon and things. So I've just spoken to Nicola about the next steps for children and young people's mental health and how young people's voices are going to be heard throughout, which is really exciting. I'm now back at the station ready to head home. Thank you so much to Hugh and Nicola for speaking to me today. It was fantastic to find out about what the next steps are for children and young people's mental health and wellbeing in Scotland.